The Vietnam War was a war between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. The U.S. was trying to contain communism, and it had no real winner. The U.S. was helping South Vietnam against the North, and the fighting was done in thick jungle, with the North Vietnamese using ambush tactics, and the war began on November 1st, 1955, and ended April 1st, 1975, making the full duration of the war 19 years, 5 months, 4 weeks, and 1 day. Ho Chi Minh was the leader of the North Vietnamese during the Vietnam War. Ho Chi Minh grew up in Europe where he learned communism. When he traveled to Moscow, he devised the Tet Offensive and was a strong believer in communism until his death in 1969, which means he never saw the conclusion of the Vietnam War. The Cuban Missile Crisis involved the U.S., Russia, and Cuba, where the United States and Russia asked each other to remove nuclear bombs from nearby countries.
Martin Luther King was involved in the civil rights movement in 1950s and to 1960s. He marched in protest for freedom. Martin wanted equal rights for everyone. MLK was known for his famous speeches. One of his famous speeches was the I Have a Dream speech. He was also active in the Rosa Parks trial, which helped out people to ride the bus in the front of the bus for equal rights. Leave that in the All right.
On February 6, 1911, Ronald Wilson Reagan was born to Nellie and John Reagan in Tampico, Illinois. He attended high school in nearby Dixon and then worked his way through Eureka College. There he studied economics and sociology, played on the football team, and acted in school plays. On January 20th, 1981, Reagan took office. In 1986, Reagan obtained an overhaul of the income tax code, which eliminated many deductions and exempted millions of people with low incomes. During the meetings with the Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, he negotiated a treaty that would eliminate intermediate-range nuclear missiles missiles on the Soviet Union.
On November 4th, 1979, a group of Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, taking more than 60 American hostages. The tragic cause of action was President Jimmy Carter's decision to allow Iran's deposed Shah, a pro-Western autocrat who had been expelled from his country some months before, to come to the United States for cancer treatment. It was also a way to raise the international profile of the revolution's leader. The students set their hostages free on January 21st, 1981, 444 days after the crisis began and just hours after President Ronald Reagan delivered his inaugural address.
Martin Luther King died at the age of 39 in 1968. That same year, President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, which prohibited discrimination in the sale of housing. Brown v. Board of Education case and a landmark case regarding segregation of schools to the Supreme Court ruled in 1954 that segregation in public schools violated the rights established in the 14th Amendment. Freedom Riders is an attempt to desegregate public accommodations such as buses, hotels, movie theaters, and stadiums. The first group of 13 Freedom Riders boarded 2 buses in Washington, D.C. on their way to New Orleans, Louisiana.
Some popular fads of the 1950s were poodle skirts, ponytails, fuzzy dice, car hops, and coonskin hats. Some popular fads of the 1960s were afros, Barbie dolls, bell-bottom pants, fallout shelters, and go-go boots.
In 1945, Roosevelt, Stalin, and Churchill met in Potsdam to discuss the issues involving Europe in 1945. They're coming! Sorry, this is whites only.
Why?
Because you're black.
2, 1. Hey.